Hello and welcome to Coffee and Bonsai with Tom. I love Mame bonsai. I mean, so much in fact that I've killed many of them for a very long time. And then I discovered the secret to keeping them happy, healthy, and vibrant. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly what you need to do in order to keep your tiny bonsai alive and thriving all summer long. You can see I have a few of my Mame here. Let's take a look at them. I keep them in this small sort of drip tray, but it's not quite up to the task of the summer heat, and that's going to be what we'll talk about quite soon. But here's a little Cascade, a Mane variety in a blue pot. Quite adorable. And I've got Little Blue here. I've got a few videos on that. You can check out his playlist, but you can see he's quite healthy and just adorable. And one of my other favorite Mame is this little Cascade in this beautiful Japanese brown pot. I just love the way this tree is kind of curling around the pot, and it's just adorable. The problem, of course, with these adorable tiny plants is that the pots are so small. I mean, there's little room for roots or water, and they can be very difficult to keep them alive. You may need to water them several times a day, 2, 3, 4 times a day. I've known people that have put ice cube trays in there. But there's an easier way, and it's called the Mame tray. Now you can use any sort of vessel you like for this. I like to use bonsai pots. You can see here I've got a beautiful pot. It's a Japanese pot that I got. And it's, pretty good size. Maybe that's, 16 inches or so there. So yeah, depending on your needs, you want a pot that's going to hold all your Mame. This one's, pretty good size. I got this for a large forest, and I'm not quite ready with the material I want to put in there, so I thought I'll just use it as a Mame tray. I kind of like to use the thin pots because due to the way water retention works, whatever they call it, it actually holds a thinner pot will actually hold, a shallower pot will actually hold more water, which is kind of what I'm after with this. You can see, I'll just give you a quick tour of some of these tiny trees that'll be going in here, and I have others as well. But you want to make sure that you've got a a tray that's going to hold all your little trees, and I think this will make quite a beautiful composition for my bench. Well, let's get moving on this. I'll move my current sort of mini indoor winter tray kind of aside, and we'll start working. Now, what I like to do, since it's a regular bonsai pot, of course, I'm going to put some wire and screen in there, and I'll show you some of that. And then we're going to choose a substrate that will hold our moisture. And then we get to the artistic part where we'll actually place the trees, which actually is kind of one of the harder parts. I've often thought it'd be interesting to do sort of a terraced approach to this, and I've tried it a few times, but I haven't really found anything that works, with sort of the idea being that it would be higher in the back, and so you could sort of see all the trees from the front maybe, or maybe with a round pot like this, you would kind of have it higher in the middle, and then you'd have a lower section, and then even the lowest section on the outside. And I tried it before, but I was not too happy with the results. So you can see here I'm just making some screens to put in here. This pot has really nice drainage, and it's actually quite a nice pot. I got a really good deal on it on eBay, and I really couldn't pass it up. And it's really heavy, and I like its very kind of organic styling, and this sort of very slight purple kind of white color also appeals to me as well. So we'll skip ahead a little bit here, and I'll show you how I put the plastic in, the tabs in, because we're going to need this to hold our substrate falling out of the holes. So I've got them all ready, and I'll just tip this up, and I'm going to use this round one in the center, and I kind of just push them in like this. I've got like little tabs. I just use U-shaped tabs around the plastic which you've seen before on some of my other videos, and just kind of stick them in and then fold them on the bottom. And that will keep our moisture retaining substrate that will help these little trees thrive from falling out the bottom of the pot. I'm just kind of pushing them through the bottom here, and I think on the center one I'm going to have to pick it up because I can't quite reach it. Yeah, so use a little bit thick wire. Sometimes it's hard to get bent in there. And this is a rectangular hole, which is kind of interesting. The other thing I like to do is just kind of neaten these up. I mean, no one's going to see it, but I know it's there, and I just kind of like it to look super sharp if I happen to look at the bottom of the pot. And yeah, so that's about it for the got the wire in there. So now I will get soil mixture ready, and I think I'm just going to use, I like to use just a straight lava kind of on the bottom and spread some of that in, which I'll start dishing in here. And then and I have a ton of this red lava, and again, you should probably wear a mask. You can see some of the powder floating around there. Most of it will wash out the bottom. But just put a nice thin layer here. I find lava, the trees really like kind of sinking roots down in there in the cracks and crannies, and it does sort of become a bit saturated with water, and kind of holds it in. And then to top it off, I like to put some sort of regular bonsai soil on the top here, but let me add a bit more lava in and just kind of spread it around and thin it out. You can put it as deep as you want. If you have plants that really want a lot of moisture, you might want to use a deeper pot or put a more moisture retaining soil on there so that the escape roots, as they kind of go out the drain hole of the pot and into the larger pot, will have plenty of water to seek out. And it always uses a bit more soil and substrate than you think in these large kind of pots. But I think we're kind of getting there. It's looking pretty good. I actually kind of like this reddish color with the very light color of the pot here. So for the top layer here, I like to put on like some regular bonsai soil, just to change the color. It's a bit finer. Let me get some of that here. Yeah, and this is what I use on a lot of my Mame because I think it just looks better, and it's kind of nice to have a little bit of organic material on the top because it helps retain more moisture, and the smaller stuff will sort of fill in the cracks with the lava below. And also, it'll grow moss, because this tends to stay a lot more moist than the pots that are above it. And so it's actually kind of nice to have them kind of sitting on a bed of green moss. At least I like that. And sometimes you can even get the moisture sort of high enough from that. There's a lot of dust coming off this. I'll be washing all that in. That you can actually get some moss in the pots as well, which isn't always possible with such small pots because they dry out so quickly. So if you have one of these little brooms, it's kind of nice just to smooth this off. And I recommend one of these anyway because it's nice for cleanup. Like to clean off your work area or dust off of pots. I'm always shocked at how much fabulous use I get out of this tiny broom. In fact, I recently ordered another one because this one is over 20 years old now. So, it's getting a little rough in the edges. But yeah, that looks great. And I think now, well, we're going to start placing these little beauties into the pots. Actually, I see one little spot I want to fill in here. And of course, you can do all this later. You can always add more substrate as needed. And, once I water this down, it'll sort of sink down a little bit as it all settles in anyhow. But we are very close to be to start putting the trees in here, which is actually probably one of the toughest parts, because you kind of want the taller ones in the back, and like getting them all in so you can sort of see them. It can be tough, and again, you can sort of change this up. I kind of work them into the soil a bit, and depending on the tree and the pot and how moist it is, you may want it deeper or more shallow, and you can play with that too. But it's all this is just sort of trial and error to kind of get what you want, and you don't have to get it perfect the first time. You can easily move them around. But this is where it all comes together. So as I'm placing these, I just want to talk a little bit about some of the pros and cons of these wonderful trays. I mean, obviously the advantages are, watering is super easy, and it makes it very, very easy to take care of these small trees. It's sort of safer. You can have moss, right, which is nice, and it helps with pruning, because I can pick up this whole thing and take it over to my turntable and spin it around and work on each tree and put it back, so it's very, very, very helpful for that as well. And, just kind of moving them around and sort of keeping them safe, because they're embedded in this pot, so they're less likely to fall off the bench. It kind of gives them some stability from squirrels and whatever else might be out there. But there are a few downsides. One of them is sort of root pruning, because what you'll find is some trees, they'll get down into this substrate and they'll just really take off. And you can usually tell that when you see the top of the tree, like heading off like a rocket. And if you let that go too long, the root can expand and clog up the bottom of the pot, so that when you water it, you're actually poisoning kind of causing root rot. Or the tree will just give up trying to grow in the small pot altogether and put all the roots into the main pot. So you want to keep an eye on that and prune it back periodically. Or, if it has a large hole in the bottom, that might be what you want. But anyway, that's definitely something to watch out for. And then, you get weeds, of course, will grow in the substrate. And strangely enough, at least where I live, see, you get a lot of trees in here. Wasps like to come and drink out of this thing. So watch out for those. I'm trying to move the camera here and give a slight more of a downward view so you can see. I mean, a lot of these need pruned already. But you can create quite a nice little Mame forest with this if you get the right placement. And as I said, you can spend quite a lot of time, and it's kind of fun to kind of get these right where you want. And I mentioned moss before. I mean, I've even taken, you can kind of harvest some moss off the sidewalk and moisten it up and stick it in around these. And, once you get your composition and the trees placed as you like, and it just looks fabulous. In fact, I really recommend that, because it also helps retain, even more moisture in the bottom of this larger pot, and it just looks, fantastic. So I think that's looking pretty good for now. I probably have room to squeeze a few more trees in there, and I think you'll find as you sort of prune them, that also opens up opportunities. But I think this is great. I've gone from that really shallow pot that really wouldn't be adequate for the summer heat, when the full power of the solar radiation of the summertime's hitting it, to something that will be able to easily support these tiny trees. And so let's do a bit of a victory lap here. You can also, it's a good time to sort of straighten things out and get them level. So we're kind of going around and push the pots down a little deeper if you think that's what you should do. And, as I said, this is fabulous for pruning these, because I can take the whole tray somewhere and tune them up and then put them back on the bench, and it's just super easy to water, prune, and just care for them in general. I'm just kind of aligning some of these where I want them to go, and I think that looks pretty good. So yeah, the parting thought for the day is, there's a lot quote unquote secrets in bonsai, and keeping mame is sort of one of them, you know. And like when you actually see how to do it, it's kind of obvious, which is quite frankly the case in many of these things. But you know, having a large pot under your trees, you know, really provides a stable environment that just keeps them from drying out and keeps them super super easy to maintain and allows them to thrive. And you know, I'll tell you, once you try it, growing small trees, tiny trees like this is quite addictive because you know, the pain point of keeping them alive and having to take care of them kind of drains away. And just another pondering thought, another secret of bonsai, you know, if you want a big trunk, start with a big trunk. And that is something you can take to the bank. Well, that's a wrap for today. I want to thank you for spending time with me, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.